Tonight, the Democrats are moving the goalposts again, demanding virtually all of the president's financial records. Now, how's that going to get them any closer to collusion? What do they think? That his financial statements somehow are going to prove collusion when Mueller was not able to do it? For goodness sakes, this is getting embarrassing for our country. The president now saying, forget it. You know what? In fact, he's suing them. And his legal team says they're not going to provide the documents because it is, quote, harassment. It is. I spent my Easter weekend reading every single page of that Mueller report. And I can tell you, the Russians never got close to President Trump and never got close to his campaign. They tried. They definitely tried. And according to the report, in some cases, for legitimate reasons. Legitimate in that the Russians had no, and I mean zero, connections to Trump and his infrastructure. And they wanted to have some because the Russians wanted to partner with us on some terrorism and trade-related issues. They had Hillary connections already. So think about it. We wasted 2 years, 2 whole years, thanks to nothing but politics. And the president and his legal team are positively right to say enough. Come on. I mean, we've given you plenty of runway, but this has gone too far. Because it has. How the heck are you supposed to be running a country when you've got the feds breathing down your back and your staff's back, for that matter, for a whole bunch of things that never even happened? These networks like CNN and MSNBC and others that covered the collusion issue as though it was somehow true and fact that the president had colluded with the Russians should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. And I guarantee you, none of those hosts over there or commentators are bothering to actually read every page in this report, and they should be ashamed because they, like the Democratic Party, were never interested in the truth. They were only interested in the destruction of a president. They saw that as their mission. I will promise you this. I have only the truth to report, and I care only for the truth, which is why I really want to move on from all of this. And if the Democrats were actually talented and smart, they would do the same. Or maybe I should add patriotic, right? Because if you care about your country, you don't want it going down a path where it's so broken, which is where we are going. But how can they talk about improving the economy when it's doing the best it's been doing in years, right? They got nothing there. And how can they talk about solving the immigration crisis when they're out there refusing to give any money to house detainees at the actual border? The country is increasingly getting more broken, but it is not because of the president. It is because the Democratic Party and the media all hate him, detest him in a way that is not actually normal. So get over it, guys, okay? We got some work to do. Joining me right now, former senior advisor to the Trump 2016 campaign and former Georgia Congressman Jack Kingston. Good to have you here, Congressman. You know, look, I'm sure in some ways you're breathing a sigh of relief. Good, it's over. But you know what? It's not over. That's the problem here. It's not over. There's no collusion. There was no obstruction of justice. And yet now they're moving on to, oh, we need his finances. When is this going to end?
Well, Trish, you have said so much in your opening monologue that there's so many things to react to, but you're absolutely right. This is not in the interest of the country. The Democrat Party is going off the deep end in the name of partisanship, in the name of power, and they're doing it at the cost of America. You know, unfortunately for them, they're not able to touch Donald Trump. And think about this, 2,800 subpoenas and 100 subpoenas just on President Trump and his businesses and so forth, all in this investigation. 500 witnesses that they interviewed under Mueller for collusion, no obstruction, And now, as you're saying, they're going to go after his tax returns. And I am so glad that Donald Trump is a fighter and he's pushing back, because it's not just about him. It is absolutely about America, and it's about the office of the presidency. What are we supposed to do? Only elect community organizers who have never done anything in business? And people don't realize they want 10 years worth of his business transactions. I mean, there's no end to it.
No, I know. You mentioned something important there. What are we supposed to do? Elect community organizers? Because I kind of like the idea that our founding fathers had, which is that, you establish a certain amount of success and a certain amount of security, and then you go into politics, and it's kind of a give back, right? It's something you can do for the country, as opposed to people who are career politicians. And forgive me, I know you're a congressman, and I don't know which way you came to being a congressman, but I don't like the idea of someone who does nothing but politics in their life and then tries to make a ton of money after the fact, right? I mean, well, let me tell you, Barack Obama's charging plenty for his speaking fees these days.
And don't forget Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, some of the wealthiest people in America today. But think about, there's two lesser-known candidates in the Democrat primary right now, John Hickenlooper, governor of Colorado, former governor, and then John Delaney. And they're both very accomplished businessmen, and they're now going to be disqualified by their party because they had business dealings in that horrible place called the private sector. And so I don't know what the Democrat Party has in mind, but they ought to be able to see beyond Donald Trump and see what's good for America. And, if they won't do it, I join you in wishing that the mainstream media would. But
the mainstream media, I mean, you know what? I'm going to tell you, I'm going to share with you, Congressman, how frustrated and disgusted I am by members of the mainstream media. And I've worked for some mainstream organizations, and I've seen it up close and firsthand, but I've never seen it at such a level that I have over the last 2 years. And, look, there are things that we don't know, right? And you have to be willing to accept that as a journalist, what you know and what you don't know. But when you then have people on CNN and MSNBC and other networks getting out there in front of a story, so far out in front, trying to prove that they can connect this one to that one to that one, and somehow there was massive Russian collusion, we have a real problem, because the media is no longer doing what it should. And I think that is to serve the truth.
Trish, I can tell you, I worked for CNN for 2 years, and I can tell you I sat on panels with people like Paris Denard and Jason Mueller and Jeffrey Lord, and we're all gone because we were defending Trump in these 4 versus 1 food fights where everybody sat there, and they would always say, listen, I know from inside information that the other shoe is about to drop. Trump is about to fire everybody. I know that Mueller has information that's unequivocal in terms of collusion.
I get it. And you know what?
Over and over again.
And those same people probably aren't bothering that we're attacking you, Congressman, to read the darn report. But if they do, they'll be, shall we say, disheartened, because basically they've sat there and lied to the American public for 2 straight years. It is very good to see you tonight. Congressman Kingston, thank you for your perspective.